Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh to our lecturer, Sir Ibrahim, our lecturer for Public Policy PAD104. Inshallah, today my friend and I will be discussing our topic about the educational policy. Before that, we will introduce ourselves first. I am Noliana binti Anwar, student number 2021460316.
My name is Siti Akila Farna bint Awaka, matrix number 20216100592.
My name is Nur Akila binti Mustafa Kamal. My matrix number is 20145043A.
My name is Nurul Ainabiha binti Muhammad Asri. My ID number is 2021841176.
My name is Muhammad Lukman bin Ahmad. My matrix number 2021845284.
Okay, I hope sir is viewing our video and having a good day because we are having a good day. Before we start, if there are any technical difficulties, we are sorry to sir because this is our best effort in discussion our presentation. So we start with the introduction first. Undeniable that education is very important in shaping the next generation to achieve the objective of a country, including Malaysia. Many countries are always trying the best for their educational system to compete more effectively in a knowledge base. Besides that, with education, we can also produce a generation that is able to create sophisticated technology, and indirectly, we can raise the country and be able to compete healthily with other developed countries like Japan. Not only that, the education system is also an important element for developing society, economic, and political aspects. With the assistance of the school system in our country, it is able to be a channel to convey that the practice of good values is very important in forming unity. Moreover, our country has many races. According to Plato, education is a process of forming a person of noble character. Besides that, Jean-Jacques also assumed that society and education are moving in tandem because education is a deep forming human beings. Next, the Malaysia Education Blueprint MEB 2013 until 2025 is the country's main contemporary education policy reform document. It set out an ambitious target to transform the education system so that Malaysia ranks among the top third of countries in international indices such as the Program for International Student Assessment PISA. This document is intended to provide a new idea in the implementation policy of the education system in Malaysia. With this, they are able to improve the level of quality of education regardless of children or adolescents. This is because they deserve a better education. Not only that, the parties involved have also introduced e-learning system to students so that they can use IT wisely in this modern age. Okay, so I pass it to Siti Akila to explain more.
Okay, policy problem. Before we dive to education policy problems, we need to understand that education policies are used to design schools, rules, regulation, processes, and protocols. These policy also establish rules and regulation to promote acceptable behavior and secure the well-being of students, educators, and school employees. The first problem that we can see in this educational policy is the teacher responsibility and competency. Teachers are supposed to lead and help the students. However, due to lack of performance-based payment and the certainty of lifelong employment, resulting in several teachers neglecting the students and do not do their job properly. This may lead to an injury or harm to students. For example, several students suffer when bully case increase due to the negligence of the teachers. To add on, because the teachers do not do their job properly, the student test score may decrease greatly. The second problem is the issue of central government imposing a low academic level on all government aid institutions. These become problems because it does not prioritize the student progress in learning and thus resulting in them having lack of critical thinking and problem solving ability. This also makes students' academic level being low in comparison to students of other countries. Next, the practice of state-mandated curriculum. This became problem because this type of curriculum will make students have less professional freedom and judgment when making a decision. This will be resulting in students having lack of creativity. Furthermore, these politically oriented courses impose ideologies on students as they have encouraged the students to recite state-set belief rather than critically examine this viewpoint. Lastly, the policy encouraged an atmosphere of fear. The students feel fear of failure, shame, and rejection. This is a problem because it will diminish the ability of students to improve intellectually. For example, students may be overly shy or even terrified of being singled out in class. In conclusion, as much as educational policy are made to give sense of security to students and teachers, the problem that arises is unavoidable. Thus, in order to have a good educational environment, this problem had to be solved. Next, I will pass to Nur Akila to explain about main objective of education policy.
Thank you. In the main objective section, I will summarize the prior education policy. It begins with the National Education Razak Statement in 1956, which was later enshrined in the Education Ordinance 1957, a systematic review process resulting in the Rahman Talib Report 1960, which was later enshrined in the Education Act 1961 until the Cabinet Committee review process was completed in 1979. The review's goal was to improve how the education system is implemented in order to produce a cohesive and disciplined society and to meet the demand for trained labour to achieve national development. Therefore, the Education Act 1996 was enacted with the aim of enabling Malaysians to master the knowledge, skills, and values needed in today's global world through the latest education system. In general, the national education policy has three distinct levels of focus. First, the education policy was developed to meet the in accordance with the process of national development in other areas such as social, economic, and political development. This is due to Malaysia's strong desire to advance the country's education sector by being ranked third in the World Certification for International Student Assessment (PISA) and trends in International Mathematics and Science Study (TIMS) by 2025. Second, the objective education policy is seeks to produce students who are disciplined, compliant, and respectful of all societies, regardless of age, in order to demonstrate that Malaysia's education system is capable of shaping the best morals and personalities while also advancing the nation's civilization. And last, the goal of government policy implementation is to ensure the success of the development of a progressive education system by using the national language Malay as the primary medium of instruction. However, along with the changes in the education system enacted in education policy, it also involves changes in the government's objective or mission in formulating effective policy formulation for the advancement of the people and the country. Therefore, this can be seen through the objective of Razak Statement 1956 and the Rahman Talib Report 1960, which more focus on the value of interracial integration, which is along with the passage of time when the country had just achieved independence. So, several measures of interracial interaction value growth have been implemented. For example, the use of Malay as the national language and main medium of instruction in all schools, the establishment of the same syllabus and examination system, and the training of teachers and students all function in the same system. Despite the country have gone through various education system, it cannot deny the new education policy changes through the implementation of the national education policy in 2013 till 2025. the objective of the development of the education sector have also changed through the National Education System SPK, which provide three main thrusts, such as the use of the national language as the main medium of instruction, the use of the same curriculum, which is the national curriculum, and sitting up for the same examination for certain levels. These three main thrusts that are applied in SPK's educational levels in preschool, primary, secondary, post-secondary, and third-year education, but do not include education in expatriate or international schools. Next, I pass to Nurul Ainabiha to explain about actors in creation of the policy.
Thank you, Noarkila. So before we start what the actors in the creation, we need to know what is actually the policy actors. So policy actors is an individual or group that is directly or indirectly with or affected by the policy process at any stage. So the first policy actors is the parents, because parents play an important role in the creating policies, because the parent will complain about the education system in Malaysia, and parent will make a complaint to a district education office, and they will bring the problem to the Malaysian Ministry of Education to create a new and safer policy. So the second actors is the Ministry of Education Malaysia. So the Ministry of Education is responsible for the Malaysian education system, pre-tertiary and vocational education. In making this policy, the Malaysian Ministry of Education is responsible to bring the problem stated by the parents and solve the problem. The Malaysian Ministry of Education will make a policy on education. For example, the Malaysian Ministry of Education has made a policy on technical and vocational schools because it want to cultivate more skill among students, as Malaysia has a shortage of skilled students. So the third actors is the State Education Department. The State Education Department is responsible for implementing Malaysian education policy as well as coordinating matters related to curriculum, syllabus, and financial assistance. The State Education Department is also responsible for boot management (SPBT) in their respective state. In the education policy, it is stated that regarding the implementation of KBSM and also KBSR. Therefore, the State Education Department will ensure that each textbook is in accordance with the prescribed format, and all these textbooks are sufficient for students. If the format in textbook does not follow what has been outlined by the ministry, then it will result in the policy not being achieved. So the fourth actors is the District Education Office, what we call as a PPD. The PPD will represent the NRD, JPN in all departmental administrative matter, be responsible for outlining school administration policies, and be responsible for teacher exchange. As for the policy of using the national language as the medium of transmission, PPD also play a big role through the NIDAM program. This program will encourage students to read, especially book in Malay. Apart from that, this is also still in the policy to democratize education by providing a complete infrastructure for school. For this policy, PPD also plays a big role, as a PPD is also responsible in asset management service. So PPD will provide all the tools for school under its district. For example, laboratory equipment in school provided by PPD. So the last actors is teacher and school. So what is teacher and school do for the policy is teacher and schools will ensure that each teacher follow the school administration policy that has been set. Teacher, on the other hand, will teach student according to the set of runners. For example, the use of Malay as the medium of instruction. The principal is also responsible for ensuring that the school is in a safe condition, and every policy issue will be the original guideline to the teacher. So principal also need to ensure that every problem complained by parents will be informed to the PPD. That's only for my part, and I will pass it to Lukman for implementation of the policy.
Alright, thank you, Nura Ainabiha. Alright, so I will explain about implementation of the policy. According to Honing, given the blueprint's emphasis on raising standard, for example, in relation to PISA and TIMSS, Malaysia requires successful policies that produce demonstrable improvements in student outcome. This means that if the blueprint's lofty goals are to be realized, a good policy implementation are required. There are several ways to emerge based on data. The first one is a weak feedback loop. Comments like disseminating mandates in Johor and not questioning the top official reflect to top-down assumption in Selangor. These viewpoints indicate that there are insufficient feedback loops to inform policymakers about the plight of the repercussions of policy reform. Next is about inaccurate data. There is proof of the cascade process weakness, with information that was lost among the administrative levels that happened in Kelantan, while in Kuala Lumpur, there is an absence of clear information that need to be delivered. As evidenced by the Sabah statistic, this could explain about the teacher sentiments of helplessness and lack of trust in policymakers. And the last way is unrealistic policy. A few participants, such as those from Johor, cited a disconnection from reality in terms of infrastructure constraints and teaching behavior. These issues need to be addressed if policies are to be successful. In the methods specified in the blueprint, particularly in boosting student result towards the top third places of worldwide globing ranking. I'm sorry, to the top third places of worldwide global ranking. These challenges must be addressed. For information, there are 5 keys of aspiration in the Malaysia education system, or known as Malaysian Education Blueprint. They are access, quality, equity, unity, and efficiency. When we talk about implementation, there must be factors that lead to effectiveness in the implementation of policy reforms. In 2013, the Malaysian Ministry of Education formed the Education Performance and Delivery Unit, which is PADU. The Education Performance and Delivery Unit's principal responsibility is to help the ministry realize its vision of changing Malaysia education system. PADU's efforts have been praised by the national officials and certain state participants. Deliver, on the other hand, is a top-down idea that appears to be less well-suited to the contextualized application supported by the participants in the all four level. For a contextualized paradigm, the SIP Plus and SISC Plus sessions appears to be more suited. However, the factors that stop the effectiveness of the implementation must be taken note. Few Malaysian scholars point to the education management hierarchy as a fundamental impediment to successful of the policy implementation. The MOE at the federal level is perceived to be controlling, following a top-down, highly centralized approach, with the State Education Department and District Education Office helping to administer it. Centralized policy-making process challenges for teachers who perceive the teaching policies from the top management to be unrealistic. Several challenges to effective policy transformation were noted by the participants in the study. First, teachers and leaders' mindsets regarding change were a source of concern for participants in all tiers. Education is difficult. The public services towards leading and govern since it is implemented in hundreds of schools that serve a diverse range of people. Alongside voicing disappointment, the ministry must determine how to deal with wrong attitudes. Next, teachers perceive teaching policies as unrealistic. Policy makers must assess if their consultative practice, such as those used during the formulation of the blueprint, was seeking for consent or were merely just window dressing. Third, centralized and mandate nature of policy reform where consent has been voiced out by the participants in the study field and essential toward the implementation of the contextualized, while the district level measures like the installation of SIP Plus and SISC Plus help tackle this issue. It appears that they are inadequate to handle this notion that reform is enforced instead of owned by the teachers and also the schools. And the last challenges is there is a perception of insufficient resources as well as infrastructural issues, equipment shortage, and training programs for teachers that is not cascade, all of which tend to hinder the effectiveness of implementation. So I will pass over to the next person.
Okay, thank you, Lokman.
Okay, thank you,
For
Lokman.
the recommendation,
For the recommendation,
for the recommendation, the
for the
Ministry of
recommendation,
Education
the Ministry of Education
The Ministry of Education
The
has
Ministry of
frequently
Education
implemented
has frequently
policy changes
implemented policy changes
For the recommendation, the Ministry of Education has frequently implemented policy changes and improvement as an effort to improve Malaysia's education system. However, in addition to the changes that have been made, there are undoubtedly changes and problems that must be overcome before the policy can be changed again. So my job here is to explain some recommendations that can help with Malaysia's educational system problems. Generally, the ministry's proposed changes are based on a redefinition of the roles and functions of JPN and PPD, with more power in decision making and responsibility in the process of planning solutions to the issues encountered in educational institutions. However, all efforts that have been done must be include the education administration hierarchy, such as schools, principal, and some of teachers involved. This is because to implement changes that involve school-level institution, a review of teachers' accessibility to students in ensuring that the implementation's objectives are met in an important process. For example, the previous education system had some negative effects on students, such as the implementation of programs that were too burdensome for students and end up causing them to lose focus during PDPR session. This forced students and teachers to reconsider the new learning structure, which is indefinite and strikes the performance standards that impact with students' abilities than the previous system. Therefore, not only the students but teachers also face difficulties in providing the best teaching techniques for students. Thus, the government must re-examine the system implementation so that it can be accepted by all parties or the ministry, so that it can be better implement the inspection process to conduct surveys in each school every month to ensure that the PDPR system is performing optimally. Next, the context of the reach of the students' abilities on the learning method use. Its objective is to ensure the smooth implementation of the policies. On some observation must be conducted, both from the perspective of students, teachers, and the community. The observation process is carried out using responses from community members as well as the qualitative open survey from teachers and students. For example, a question that can be asked, are students or teachers able to accept the changes made in terms of student acceptance of the techniques and methods of learning used? So, the open survey that had been done allows teachers and students to share their thoughts and suggestions for improvement. Through the result of the questionnaire, the ministry, school, and university administration must conduct a process of reconsidering the implementation of the education system implemented and make some improvement that will lead to public satisfaction while achieving government aspirations through the development of the education sector. Eventually, the proposed education system must the proposed education system improvement can also be seen in the lack of school infrastructure and ICT. I've made a reference via the Malaysia Education Development Plan 2013 till 2025. There are three waves of recommendations that can be done, which is in the first wave on 2013 till 2015, it's more focused on the government's effort on ensuring basic infrastructure facilities at a good level, such as one table and one chair for one students, improvement of physical structure like roof, walls, wiring, and paint. This aims to provide a safe, clean, and conducive environment for PDPR session. Next, for the second wave, on 2016 till 2020, the ministry's objectives are more focused on equipping schools to support the improvement of curriculum activities in school by providing sports facilities, science laboratories, hostel, Islamic education activity spaces, and internet facilities for up to 24 hours with 2 till 10 Mbps access per school. Last, for the third wave, which is in 2021 till 2025, Malaysia, which has been experiencing an outbreak of COVID-19 since 2020, has seen changes to its education system because of online learning having to be done during the period of movement control PKP. This makes it difficult for educational residents in rural areas to get the best internet access. Therefore, the government has proposed providing learning materials through the television sector, such as Didik TV, as well as providing free laptops and tablets to unprivileged students, this is to ensure that every Malaysian student can continue their study despite being in an unpleasant situation. So now, I pass to Nuriana to explain about our conclusion for this presentation.
Thank you, Nur Akila. So, by our discussion, we can see that everything that we take some action to improve something, of course, there will be problems that you must face. It can be taken in educational policy in Malaysia. It is not easy for the Minister of Education to make a decision to align with the country's objective in suppressing the standard of education in Malaysia. It's not just that the minister involved needs to formulate a policy so that the benefit and interest that we gain can be shared to all communities, regardless of race and religion. What can be seen here is that there are many changes in the education system from before independence until now, especially the government's efforts which are always to improve in the education system so that the people get an equivalent education even if the community live in the village area. Although many changes have been made in the education sector, in fact there are many more weaknesses we face and they need to be curbed quickly so that this problem does not become more serious. For example, in the problem of unity, this is because the existence of multi-stream schools make it difficult to achieve good unity in the country. So the society must work together to play a role in achieving a harmonious nation so that the education system in this country can move well and be able to realize the aspiration of 2020 introduced by Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, who is the 4th and 7th Prime Minister in 2003. So, that all from us and thank you for sir and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.